Have you ever watched a creative idea and wondered, how in the world did this become so popular? Do you sometimes catch yourself humming the tune of a recent song over and over again? Or have you ever replied to a question with the catchphrase from an old ad campaign? If you have done one or all of the above, this is the show for you. On How Did This Become a Thing, we take a closer look at why an idea or a thought that seems small, harmless, inane even, becomes such a huge hit. Do communication officials have some insight into the human psyche that we ourselves don't? Why do we sometimes remember an ad from years ago, but not what we ate for breakfast? Answers to all this and more. Join us every week on a TIC original podcast, How Did This Become a Thing? Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Close your eyes, calm your mind, feel the energy pulsing through your nerves. Yoga. Whether you're well versed with your chaturangas and asanas or you've never really given yoga a try, there is no denying the fact that yoga is a phenomenon that has a massive worldwide following. And to think it all began in India 5,000 years ago. As per the yogic lore, Adi Yogi, the first yogi, spread the science of yoga to the legendary Saptarishis who were tasked with spreading the good word to different parts of the world. Adi Yogi's teachings were said to have explained 112 ways for mortal beings to surpass their limitations and unleash their true potential. That's why yoga is synonymous with a spiritual discipline that works on both the mind and body. But let's travel back in time a little. Not 5,000 years ago, but to a time when we were children. If yoga is such an integral part of our culture and steeped in Hindu tradition, then how come we never grew up doing yoga? Up until a decade ago, I didn't know too many Indians who could tell the difference between a downward-facing dog and a three-legged dog, or worse, that these were English names for yoga poses. So why is everyone suddenly trying to master the Shirshasana, and how and when did yoga become a thing? Before yoga became a thing in India, it was somehow cool in the West. It was a part and parcel of the hippie culture in the 60s, and then BKS Iyengar and Bikram Chaudhary took it a step further until tree pose and sun salutations were part of the zeitgeist. But back home, yoga gained cult status in 2015 after the UN declared June 21st as International Day of Yoga following a proposal by PM Modi during his speech at the UNGA. Since then, India has hosted dignitaries and held open-air yoga sessions every year to celebrate. But away from the grand scale of celebrations, yoga has become fun, cool, trendy, and something everyone wants to try. You can now attend physical classes or even try a class online through various fitness apps. If you're on social media, you can get your yoga fix from Instagram or even YouTube videos. According to a study done in 2021, 11.8% of people in India practice yoga. There was a higher prevalence of people practicing yoga in North India and least amount of people in East India. We spoke to Radhika Nambyar, a millennial who fell in love with yoga and decided to teach. She is now a certified yoga teacher and reaches out to her audience through social media.
When we say yoga in the popular context, we are talking about yoga asanas, which is honestly a very small part of the whole practice. Yoga is essentially about managing the mind, and that's what got me into it. Having gone through anxiety and general chaos in the mind, yoga was actually a means for me to deal with it, and I must say that it's been life changing. Last couple of years has definitely seen an increase in popularity of yoga in general. In fact, if I step into any sports store like Nike, etc., there would be larger sections for yoga clothing, so-called yoga clothing, than any other sport. I think a few reasons for that. One is, of course, like you said, social media, health apps has commoditized yoga to a large extent. I can today sign up for monthly yoga classes for paying as low as 90 rupees for the month. right? And of course social media makes yoga look so glamorous, with people doing these gorgeous difficult poses on the beach, and it is attractive, and everybody wants to see if they can achieve those poses or the asanas. And also I feel with the onset of covid there has been a huge focus on building immunity, and most importantly on respiratory health. And I think yoga is probably the first practice that will come to mind to work on these aspects. More than anything, there has been a lot of pressure on not just physical but the emotional and mental well-being of people at large. And I feel that more and more people are now seeing the role, the positive impact that a yoga practice can have on addressing that. So essentially the practice gives them a tool to manage the mind, and in that sense it becomes a long term lifestyle choice rather than instant gratification.
Shammi Gupta has an MA in Yoga Shastra and believes in healing through alignment. She has worked with various companies around the world to bring therapeutic bliss and a disease free life by natural living through yoga and naturopathy. When the pandemic hit, she took her classes online and continued to reach her followers through social media. As someone who doesn't believe in making yoga a trend, what is it about yoga that has made it so popular?
Let me come back. It's the old tradition, it's there from parts of the world, or maybe older. It was systematized pretty late, so it was always there. In India, it's a way of life in many households. It is. It's in many traditional houses. People, if you we go from the older generation, like say in Kerala, in some part of the Bihar, still in houses, people wake up, they do their morning ritual in terms of yoga and then they start the work. So it was always there. Only things have changed a bit in terms of practice. So even though when it was very popular in the West, it was very popular mostly in terms of physical practice, in terms of asana. One of the reasons for that was that, like in India, we have this approach of inside out approach we had. In the Western countries, the approach was mostly outside, like in. So if they can see something, they can feel something, they understand it better. Because West is very good with packaging and marketing, it became more popular from there. But in the name of yoga, the therapeutic application of yoga has become very popular. Okay. So nowadays, if you see, when people talk about yoga, they don't come to yoga because they were inspired or they thought it's a part of our culture. They came to yoga. Most of the time, people, when they adapt yoga, they are come to it to seek some solution. The solution is not spiritual or mental. It's mostly physical. So when you're doing yoga, you are blooming or evolving as a complete human being.
So now you know why, how, and when yoga became a thing. If you're planning to try out, today is a good day. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please show your love by liking and subscribing to the podcast. You could also spread the good word and share it with a friend. I'm your host, Rati Girish, and I will be back next week with yet another exciting episode of the TIC original podcast, How Did This Become?